When my daughter shattered my heart by declaring I was unwelcome at her family BBQ after sacrificing everything to build her dream home, I masked my pain, with a smile climbed into my truck and placed the call that ignited my revenge. By summer's close, their mortgage was history, but that was only the spark in a blaze of justice against the arrogance that had exploited my love for years. You will not believe the raw betrayal I unearthed, or the cathartic reckoning that followed, restoring my dignity in ways I never imagined. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you are listening in the comments. I could grill my famous ribs this year, I said, as David Thompson, a 62-year-old widower whose landscaping empire in Dallas masked the quiet grief from my late wife, Mary, settling deeper into Michelle's plush patio chair. The spicy rub she adored, evoking bittersweet memories of her saying it, outshone her grandmother's recipe words that now hung heavy in the sweltering Texas air, laced with the fresh scent of their impeccably trimmed lawn I had indirectly paid for. Dad, unfortunately, you will not be welcome here for the BBQ. The words hit me like a sudden gust of wind off the prairie. I blinked, certain I had misheard. What do you mean? Why would I not be welcome? Michelle could not meet my eyes, her gaze fixed on the stone fire pit, the one I had picked out with her when Isaac decided their old setup was not impressive enough for entertaining. Isaac's parents are coming, and they would prefer if you were not here. My hands went cold. They would prefer. It is just easier this way, Dad. You know how his family is about traditions. They have their own way of doing things. Her voice got smaller with each word, like she was shrinking inside herself. I looked around the backyard at the teak furniture I had paid for when Isaac complained about durability, at the stamped concrete patio that had come from my second mortgage, at the string lights that had maxed out my credit card. Every inch of this property bore my fingerprints, my sacrifice, my love for my daughter. Their own way, I repeated slowly. And what way is that, Michelle? She flinched. Dad, please do not make this harder than it has to be. Through the sliding glass doors, I could see Isaac's new smoker, the professional grade one he'd insisted he needed for his weekend hobby that lasted exactly 2 months. $2,000 of my money sitting there, probably used twice since April. Where will I spend the BBQ then? The question came out quieter than I intended. Michelle's face crumbled. Maybe you could, I do not know, maybe visit Aunt Rita, or we could do something the weekend after. The weekend after? Like the family, BBQ was just another appointment that could be rescheduled for convenience. I stood up, my knees protesting after 8 years of carrying this burden alone. I see. Dad, wait. But I was already moving toward the gate, past the family photos on their outdoor wall, where my face grew smaller and more distant in each frame, past the storage shed that held Isaac's dozens of tools. My hand found the gate latch solid and cold under my palm. Sweetheart, I said, without turning around. Tell Isaac's parents I said happy grilling. The summer heat wrapped around me like a heavy blanket as I walked toward my truck. Behind me, I heard Michelle call my name once, then the soft click of the gate closing. Final absolute. I sat in the driver's seat for a moment, engine off, watching the neighborhood kids play in sprinklers under the relentless Dallas sun, their laughter echoing like distant memories of happier times. My phone buzzed, probably Michelle wanting to smooth things over with empty promises and guilt. I did not answer. Instead, I turned the key and drove into the fading light, leaving behind the warm glow of the home I had bought but would never belong in. The air conditioner hummed against the July humidity as I navigated the familiar streets toward my place in the older part of town. North Dallas sprawled around me, every subdivision corner, holding memories of the man I used to be, the one who believed family meant everything, who would give his last dollar to see his daughter smile. That man was a fool. I stopped at the red light on Preston Road, watching a young father load coolers into his SUV for what looked like a backyard gathering. His kids pressed their faces against the window breath, fogging the glass with excitement. Once upon a time, that had been Michelle and me. Before I became nothing more than a walking checkbook with inconvenient emotions. The numbers started rolling through my head like a broken adding machine. 2,800 every month for 5 years. My calculator had given up trying to make sense of it last fall when I had finally added up the total. $140,000 on the mortgage alone. More money than Mary and I had saved for our entire retirement. Gone. Just gone. I pressed the accelerator harder than necessary as the light turned green. The truck responded with a growl that matched my mood. Beltline Road. That was where I had refinanced my house. Our house, Mary's and mine, to cover their down payment. The loan officer had looked at me with pity I had not recognized at the time. "Mr. Thompson, are you sure about this? You are putting a lot at risk for someone else's investment. Someone else's investment. Not my daughter's future, not my family's security. Someone else's investment." Central Expressway, the bank where I had taken out a second mortgage when Michelle lost her job 2 years ago. Just temporary, Dad. Just until I get back on my feet. Isaac had stood behind her expensive watch on his wrist, nodding sympathetically while mentally calculating how much my desperation was worth. Nothing. As it turned out, my desperation was worth nothing to them. I pulled into my driveway, the one with the uneven pavement I could not afford to fix because every spare dollar disappeared into their perfect suburban oasis. The porch fan whirred lazily another repair I had been putting off. Inside the house felt hollow without Mary's laughter, without the warmth of family gatherings that would never happen again. My phone rang as I fumbled with my keys, the shrill tone echoing off the empty walls. Isaac's name flashed on the screen, probably wanting to explain why I was not good enough for his parents' delicate sensibilities. Perfect timing. I had been waiting 5 years to have this conversation. I answered on the 4th ring, letting him wait just long enough to wonder if I would pick up at all. David. Isaac's voice dripped with false sweetness, the same tone he used when asking me to cover their utility bill or property taxes. I heard about the little misunderstanding with Michelle. Misunderstanding, I leaned against my kitchen counter, still wearing my boots. "I do not think there is any misunderstanding, Isaac. You made your position quite clear. Look, I know this seems harsh, but you have to understand my parents' perspective. They are very traditional people. They expect a certain atmosphere during gatherings. A certain atmosphere," I repeated. "And what atmosphere is that pause?" I could hear shopping bags rustling in the background, probably spending money that should have gone to their mortgage payment. Money that was my responsibility, apparently. Well, they are not used to your kind of grilling. All that spicy backyard food and loud stories. And frankly, David, they are educated people. They expect conversations about current events, literature, art, you know. The words hit harder than a sudden storm. 8 years of biting my tongue, of swallowing insults for Michelle's sake, of pretending not to notice the way he looked at me like I was some kind of hired help, my kind of grilling. My voice stayed level, controlled. "You mean the food you ate every weekend for 3 years when money was tight. The ribs you said reminded you of your grandfather. That was different. We were appreciative then, but now with my parents, now with your parents, you cannot have the working-class guy embarrassing you at your fancy grill-out." The false sweetness evaporated. "Do not be dramatic, David. This is not about background. It is about class. My father graduated summa cum laude from Texas A&M. My mother speaks 3 languages. They vacation in the hill country. What exactly would you contribute to the conversation stories about mowing lawns?" Heat flooded my chest, but I kept my voice steady. "I built a business from nothing after your wife's mother died. I have employed over 50 people. I have paid more in taxes than your father made in his best year. Money is not everything, David. Upbringing matters. Education matters. And frankly, Mary understood her place better than you understand yours." The line went dead silent. He had crossed it. The line I did not even know existed until he had stomped across it in his polished shoes. "What did you say about my wife? I am just saying she knew how to blend in better. She did not make waves. She understood that some spaces were not meant for her." My hand tightened around the phone until my knuckles went white. Mary had more class in her little finger than your entire bloodline will ever possess. Oh, please. She was a housekeeper who got lucky. At least she had the good sense to stay quiet about it. Isaac. My voice dropped to something I did not recognize. I want you to listen very carefully. This conversation is over. We are done pretending to be family. You cannot just. We are done. I repeated and ended the call. I set the phone down carefully on the counter, my hands surprisingly steady. Around me, the kitchen felt different, smaller but somehow cleaner, like a weight had been lifted from the air itself. I walked to my desk in the corner, pulled out the folder I had been avoiding for months. Bank statements, mortgage papers, 5 years of automatic transfers that had drained me while they lived like royalty. Time to stop the flow. The documents spread across my kitchen table like evidence at a crime scene. 5 years of bank statements, each one showing the same automatic transfer. $2,800 on the 15th of every month, vanishing from my account into theirs, a paper trail of my own foolishness. I pulled out my calculator and started adding. The first year, $33,600. The second year, another $33,600. By the third year, I had stopped buying myself new clothes. The fourth year, I had started shopping at discount stores for basics. This year, the fifth, I had been eating canned soup for lunch to make ends meet. $168,000 on the mortgage payments, alone. Not counting the down payment, not counting the times I had covered their power bills when Isaac's gadget obsession got out of hand, not counting the new smoker, the landscaping, the furniture that was essential for their entertaining style. I sat back in my chair, looking at the numbers until they blurred. Mary's life insurance money, my retirement savings, the fund we had started for grandchildren I would apparently never be allowed to spoil. All of it gone. Poured into a home where I was not welcome for a simple family BBQ. I reached for my phone, scrolled through my contacts until I found the number for my bank. The automated system offered me options in English. How thoughtful. How accommodating to people like me. Customer service. This is Jennifer. How can I help you today? I need to cancel an automatic transfer. I said, my voice steadier than it had been in years. Certainly, sir. I will need your account number and some verification information. I rattled off the numbers, heard her typing in the background. Professional, efficient, no judgment about why a 62-year-old man was canceling payments to what was probably his daughter's mortgage. I see the transfer. You are referring to Mr. Thompson. $2,800 monthly to Chase Bank. Account ending in 7423. How long have you been making this transfer? 5 years. The words tasted bitter. And you want to cancel it effective immediately. I looked around my kitchen at the outdated appliances I could not afford to replace, at the walls that needed painting, at the windows that let in drafts because I had spent my home improvement money on someone else's paradise. Effective immediately, I confirmed. Done. The transfer has been canceled. Is there anything else I can help you with today? No. I said, surprising myself with how good the word felt. No, that is everything. I hung up and sat in the sudden quiet of my house. Outside, the July evening was settling over Dallas neighbors, firing up grills where families gathered without conditions, without judgment, without the need to hide who they were. For the first time in 5 years, next month's budget would balance. For the first time since Mary died, I could afford to fix my driveway, buy decent groceries, maybe even take a road trip. I gathered up the bank statements, the mortgage papers, all the evidence of my generosity. Then I walked to my fireplace, struck a match, and watched 5 years of self-sacrifice turn to ash. The fire felt warm on my face, warmer than I had felt in years. My phone buzzed with a text message, probably Michelle wanting to apologize or Isaac needing money for something essential like new patio cushions. I did not check it. Instead, I poured myself a glass of the good whiskey, the bottle I had been saving for a special occasion that never seemed to come. Tonight felt special enough. I raised my glass to the empty room, to Mary's photo on the mantel, to the man I used to be and the man I was becoming. Cheers to me, I said, and meant it. The liquid burned smooth down my throat, settling like resolve in my chest. The next morning arrived bright and relentless Texas sun streaming through my kitchen windows as I nursed my second cup of coffee. For the first time in years, I was not calculating how much money would disappear from my account in a few days. The freedom tasted better than the dark roast I had finally allowed myself to buy. My phone rang at exactly 10:47 a.m. Isaac's name flashed on the screen like a warning sign. David. His voice carried that familiar tone of barely concealed impatience. "I need you to pick up my parents from Dallas International Airport. Their flight from Austin arrives at 2. I set down my mug, carefully watching the steam curl toward the ceiling. "Isaac, did you forget about our conversation yesterday? Look, whatever that was about, we need to focus on practical matters now. My parents need transportation, and you are the only one with time during the day." The audacity was breathtaking. Less than 24 hours after telling me I was not worthy of sharing a family BBQ with his family, he expected me to serve as their personal driver. And you are asking me because that is what family does, David. They help each other. His voice sharpened with irritation. Besides, let us be honest here. You are not my rival. You are too weak to be my rival. So just get in your truck and pick them up. There it was, the final insult wrapped in a command. "What airline?" I asked quietly. "American Flight 447. They will be at baggage claim 3. And David, they are expecting someone who can handle their luggage properly. Do not embarrass us." I could hear his fingers tapping against something hard. Probably his granite countertop, the one I had paid for when he decided laminate was not suitable for his gatherings. "Of course," I said. "I will take care of everything." "Good. And wear something decent. Maybe that blue shirt you wore to Michelle's promotion party. They notice things like that." The line went dead. He had not even said thank you. I sat back in my chair looking at my phone's blank screen. 2:00 flight 447 baggage claim 3. I glanced at the wall clock above my sink. 10:52 a.m. Plenty of time. I poured myself another cup of coffee, added an extra spoonful of sugar, and opened yesterday's newspaper to the crossword puzzle I had not finished. 7 across. Delayed gratification. 12 letters. The answer would come to me eventually. At 2:15 p.m., I was settling into my favorite armchair with a fresh cup of iced tea and the Dallas Morning News Sunday edition. The crossword from yesterday lay completed on my coffee table. Delayed gratification had been postponement. My phone buzzed against the wooden surface. Isaac's name, again. I let it ring. The July sun slanted through my living room windows, warming the space where I'd spent so many lonely evenings counting the cost of my generosity. Today the silence felt different, earned intentional. 2:47 p.m. The phone buzzed again. This time I could see the preview of his text. "Dad, where are you? My parents are." I turned the phone face down and returned to the sports section. The Cowboys were in training camp again. Some things never changed. By 3:30, my phone had buzzed 6 times. I had finished the newspaper, brewed a second pot of tea, and started organizing the junk drawer in my kitchen. Amazing what you could accomplish when you were not rushing around serving people who considered you their personal errand boy. The 7th call came at 3:45. Instead of Isaac's name, an unknown number. Probably his parents borrowed someone's phone at the airport. I let that one ring too. Outside, a neighbor was setting up a sprinkler for his kids. Normal families doing normal things. No one stranded anywhere waiting for someone who would never come. 4:15 p.m. My phone started ringing and did not stop. Isaac, then the unknown number, then Isaac again. The buzzing became constant, like an angry hornet trapped against glass. I walked to my kitchen and unplugged my landline from the wall. Then I turned my cell phone completely off. Perfect silence. I made myself a sandwich with fresh bread and heated up some leftover chili comfort food I had not allowed myself in months because every grocery dollar had gone toward making ends meet while subsidizing their lifestyle. The bread toasted perfectly golden. The chili steamed in my favorite bowl. Outside, the summer sun was already starting to dip, casting long shadows across my backyard. Somewhere across town, 3 people were probably standing in an airport terminal, arguing about ride shares and wondering how their personal servant had the audacity to strand them. The thought made my chili taste even better. By 5 p.m., I had eaten, loaded my dishwasher, and was considering what book to read. It had been years since I'd had an entire evening to myself without worrying about emergency calls for money or last-minute favors. I was reaching for the remote when someone started pounding on my front door. Not knocking, pounding. The kind of aggressive hammering that rattled the frame and announced pure fury. I set down my tea and walked slowly toward the sound, already knowing exactly who I would find on the other side. The pounding intensified as I approached the door, each blow more violent than the last. Through the peephole, I could see 3 figures crowded on my small porch, like vultures circling a carcass. I opened the door to Cody Jenkins's flushed face, inches from mine. "What in the world is wrong with you?" he bellowed, shoving past me into my living room without an invitation. We waited at that airport for over 3 hours in this heat. Catherine followed her meticulously styled hair, now frizzed from the humidity, her mouth twisted in disdain. "This is utterly unacceptable from a man your age, David. It is downright savage." Isaac trailed behind his expensive polo shirt, rumpled his expression a mix of fury and embarrassment. "You humiliated us all. Do you even realize what you have done?" "My parents had to shell out $40 for a taxi because you chose to throw a tantrum. Get out of my house!" My voice sliced through their outrage like a hot knife through butter. They froze mid-tirade, stunned by the firmness in my tone. "Excuse me." Cody's face darkened from red to a deep crimson. "You do not dictate terms here, pal. Not after the stunt you pulled today." "This is my home," I said calmly, holding my ground by the door, "and I am telling you to leave." Catherine advanced her words laced with the superior tone she had honed over years of belittling those she deemed inferior. "David, you obviously fail to grasp the severity of your error. My husband has influence all over Dallas, professional ties, social networks. You cannot mistreat people of our standing and expect no fallout. This was a teaching moment for you," I cut in, locking eyes with her. "A lesson in your overblown ego and how you mistreat those you view as lesser." Isaac's jaw dropped. "A lesson? Who are you to lecture anyone? You are nothing. You are just I am the one who stopped being your endless cash source and chauffeur." I swung the door wider. "Class dismissed. You can go." Cody thrust a finger toward my chest, stopping short of contact. "You have no clue who you are tangling with, old-timer. I have been part of this city's fabric longer than you have drawn breath here. I know key players, powerful ones, folks who can turn your life upside down." "Is that a threat, Mr. Jenkins?" "It is a guarantee." His tone lowered to a threatening murmur. "You believe stranding us at the airport is something you can get away with. You are on the verge of discovering how mistaken you are." Catherine nodded her grin, sharp as a razor. "Yes, choices have repercussions. David, and yours will be very visible." Isaac clutched his father's sleeve. "Dad, let us leave. This sad old guy is not worth the effort." They marched out like a routed force, but Cody paused at the doorway. "You will rue this," he said. "Mark my words." I shut the door and engaged the lock with a firm snap. Through the window, I observed them cram into their rental car, bickering as they sped off into the July dusk. The house felt refreshed in their absence, as though their aura had tainted the air, and now it dissipated. But their final threats lingered in the stillness. Visible repercussions, powerful contacts, influence. I returned to my living room and retrieved my tea, still lukewarm in the mug. For the first time in this ordeal, a hint of unease crept in. Yet it was dwarfed by a stronger sensation: expectancy. The evening stretched on the sun dipping below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. I sat in my armchair, the one Mary had picked out for its comfort during her final months, and let the events replay in my mind. The exclusion from the BBQ Isaac's cutting words on the phone, the decision to end the payments. It all led to this moment of defiance. My phone vibrated on the table, a flurry of texts from Michelle. I glanced at the screen. "Dad, what is going on?" "The bank just alerted me about the mortgage transfer being canceled. Are you serious? This is petty. Call me back." Tension coiled in my gut, a light twist in the saga. The bank alert had notified her already faster than I expected. Her voicemail followed her voice laced with anger and disbelief. "Dad, this is ridiculous. After everything you cancel the payments, you are being childish. We need to talk." I deleted the message without listening to the end, the action bringing a surge of liberation mixed with a pang of sorrow. How had it come to this? Emotions welled up as I reflected on the sacrifices. The $2,800 every month for 5 years, $168,000 in mortgage alone, plus the $47,000 down payment, and $22,000 for their patio upgrades, the grill, the outdoor setup. The total hit $237,468, a number etched in my memory from countless sleepless nights. I had eaten basic meals, skipped vacations, watched my savings dwindle to fund their luxury, all while they treated me like an inconvenience. The next morning, dawn broke with the promise of another scorching day. I woke early, the events of yesterday still fresh, fueling my resolve. I brewed coffee, the aroma filling the kitchen, and sat at the table where the ashes from the burned papers still lingered in the fireplace. To confirm the cancellation, I dialed the bank again, needing to hear it official one more time. "Good morning. This is Jennifer. How may I assist you?" I verified my identity. My heart pounding slightly, just double-checking the automatic transfer I canceled yesterday. "Yes, Mr. Thompson, it is confirmed. No further payments will be made." Relief washed over me, but with it came a wave of emotions. The sacrifices flashed before me, the lean years where I chose their comfort over mine, the basic sandwiches while they dined out on my dime. As I hung up, my phone buzzed with another message from Michelle. "Dad, this is not funny. The mortgage is due soon. Call me." The conflict heightened her pettiness, accusation ringing in my ears from the voicemail. I deleted it too, the action solidifying my stance. The mix of betrayal and liberation coursed through me, the imagery of their lavish backyard contrasting with my modest kitchen. I poured another coffee and looked out the window at the rising sun. The day ahead held more, but for now the flow was stopped, and I felt the first stirrings of true freedom. The morning after felt like a new dawn, the sun filtering through my curtains in golden shafts that promised possibility. I lingered over breakfast, savoring eggs and toast without the usual knot in my stomach from financial worry. My phone sat silent at first, but by mid-morning it lit up with Isaac's call. David, his voice clipped and demanding as ever. "I need you to handle airport duty for my parents. Their flight lands at 2 at Dallas International Baggage Claim 3. Get there early." I paused, stirring my coffee, the steam rising like my simmering resentment. "Why me, Isaac?" "Because you have the time, and it is what family does. Help out." His tone turned mocking. "Or are you too weak to manage a simple pickup? Do not make this difficult." I gripped the mug tighter, the heat seeping into my palm, mirroring the anger building inside. "Fine," I said, my voice even. "I will be there." "Good. And make sure you handle their bags properly. They expect competence. No embarrassing slip-ups." The call ended abruptly, his words hanging in the air like a challenge. I set the phone down, a plan forming in my mind, sharp and satisfying. I would agree on the surface, but they would learn what it felt like to be left waiting. The afternoon stretched ahead, and I intended to spend it on my terms. I brewed a fresh pot of coffee, the rich aroma filling the kitchen, and pulled out the crossword puzzle from yesterday's paper. The clues blurred at first, my thoughts racing through the insults, the years of giving the exclusion from the BBQ that still stung like a fresh wound. As noon approached, I settled into my armchair, puzzle in hand, the fan overhead whirring softly against the building heat. The clock ticked past 1, then 1:30 each minute, a small victory. At 2, my phone vibrated with the first call from Isaac. I let it ring the sound echoing through the quiet house, a tense reminder of their growing frustration. Texts followed in quick succession. Where are you? The flight landed on time. Answer your phone. The words on the screen fueled my resolve, a mix of liberation and a twinge of guilt that I pushed aside. I focused on the puzzle, filling in letters, slowly the satisfaction of each correct answer, building like the storm I knew was coming. By 2:30, the calls intensified, the phone buzzing relentlessly on the table. Catherine's number appeared probably from a borrowed device, her message sharp. This is unacceptable. We are waiting in this miserable heat. Pick up. I imagined them at baggage claim, 3 luggage piled around Cody, pacing with his phone in hand. Catherine fanning herself with a magazine, Isaac checking his watch every few seconds. The image brought a grim smile to my face, the tension coiling tighter with each ignored notification. 3:00 past, the sun slanting lower, casting long shadows across my living room floor. More texts poured in, desperate now. Dad, this is not funny. Mom and Dad are furious. Call back. The words stirred a whirlwind of emotions, betrayal sharpest among them, but liberation stronger. A fire kindled by years of being taken for granted. I rose at 3:30, stretching my legs, and moved to the kitchen for another coffee. The pot gurgled as it brewed the scent, grounding me amid the escalating digital assault. The phone rang again. Unknown caller, likely from the airport. I silenced it, the vibration ceasing like a held breath. Outside, neighborhood kids splashed in a pool, their laughter a stark contrast to the fury building miles away. 4:00 brought a lull, then a barrage. Isaac's voicemail icon flashed. I deleted without listening, the action a small act of defiance that heightened the conflict, my heart pounding with a blend of anxiety and empowerment. By 4:30, the pounding started at my door, the sound reverberating through the house like thunder. I approached, slowly peering through the curtain to confirm. Cody, Catherine, and Isaac stood there, faces contorted in rage, a rental car idling in the drive. I opened the door, and Cody surged forward. What the hell, David, 3 hours in that sweltering terminal? Catherine pushed in behind. This is beyond rude. It is cruel. Isaac followed, his eyes blazing. You left us stranded. $40 on a taxi, and now this. I stood firm, blocking further entry. You are not welcome here. Leave. Cody's veins bulged. You do not order us around after that betrayal, Catherine sneered. My husband has pull in Dallas connections that can ruin you. Isaac nodded. You think this ends here? We will make sure everyone knows what you did. Their threats hung heavy. Cody's business ties invoked like a weapon, promising public shame. I met their gazes, the tension, electric emotions surging from hurt to resolve. This was your lesson in arrogance. Now go. They retreated, muttering promises of revenge, driving off into the fading light. The door closed, the silence returning, but the air crackled with the promise of more conflict ahead. The silence lingered through the night, a heavy blanket that did little to ease the tension coiling in my chest. I tossed in bed, replaying the confrontation, Cody's threats echoing like distant thunder. Morning brought no relief, the sun rising hot and unforgiving over Dallas, mirroring the slow burn of my resolve. I went about my routine, tending to a few landscaping jobs, the physical labor a welcome distraction from the storm brewing. Calls from Michelle came sporadically, her messages pleading, then accusing, but I left them unread, the phone on silent, as I focused on reclaiming my peace. 2 days passed in a blur of work and quiet reflection, the weight of their words fading slightly amid the satisfaction of my newfound boundaries. 3 days after the airport fiasco, I sat at my kitchen table with fresh coffee, flipping through the Dallas morning news, as was my habit. The headlines blurred until one caught my eye on page 3, my own photo staring back, grainy and unflattering, from an old business card. Dallas landscaper leaves visitors stranded at airport amid heat wave, it read. My stomach twisted, the mug nearly slipping from my hand. The article, penned by Patricia Morrison in the lifestyle section, painted a damning picture. Cody and Katherine Jenkins in town for a family event endured over 4 hours in sweltering conditions at Dallas International, when relative David Thompson failed to show for a scheduled ride. The pair in their late 50s braved a heat advisory that pushed temperatures to dangerous levels. Heat advisory. The day had been mild for July, 82 degrees, with a breeze no warnings issued that I recalled. We were shocked someone would abandon us like that. Cody was quoted the retired executive from a local firm. Repeated calls went unanswered. We had no choice but to take a costly taxi in hazardous weather. At our stage in life, this is not mere rudeness, it is perilous. The piece went on weaving in hints of my unstable conduct concerns for my well-being after recent family strains. Cody had crafted them as vulnerable travelers, victimized by a heartless kin, no hint of the BBQ snub the years of my bankrolling their comforts, or Isaac's haughty commands. Just me, the antagonist who ditched innocent folks in a fabricated scorcher. I pushed the paper aside my coffee, turning bitter on my tongue. Emotions churned a grudging admiration for Cody's cunning, mixing with raw determination. He had leveraged his old executive network, probably phoning favors from boardroom buddies, to plant this hit piece, where it would sting most in the lifestyle pages, read by Dallas social circles. It was calculated effective, a move that could tarnish my business reputation overnight. Clients might hesitate, neighbors whisper the community I had built over decades fraying at the edges, but respect for their ploy only fueled my fire. If they wanted war, I would fight with facts. I grabbed my laptop, the screen glowing in the morning light, and dove into their digital trails. Starting with social media, Cody's Facebook profile showed a man of influence posts about golf outings, with industry leaders treasurer for the Dallas Business Association. Katherine's Instagram was a curated gallery of luxury charity galas, wine tastings in the hill country captions, dripping with blessed life hashtags. Every image screamed privilege vacations in Aspen, the kind funded indirectly by my sacrifices. Isaac's timeline revealed the truth photos of their sprawling backyard with the patio I financed check-ins at upscale eateries. During months I covered their bills, a recent status buzzing with excitement for the upcoming BBQ, ready to showcase our hosting prowess. Michelle's LinkedIn caught my attention next, her professional network laid bare. Among her connections, Patricia Morrison stood out, the same lifestyle editor who authored the smear. A quick search confirmed it. Morrison, 43, journalism grad from University of Texas, 15 years in local media, no obvious ties to executives until I dug deeper. Mutual links led back to Cody's old firm, 3 shared contacts with her editor. The article had not materialized by chance. It was orchestrated, a cold call turned favor through back channels. Amateur, but effective. The discovery stirred a complex brew inside me, respect for their reach, tempered by a steely will to counter it. Determination took hold as I compiled my counterstrike. I opened folders on my desktop, pulling consistent financial records, bank statements, scanned before the burn, each transfer timestamp totals, unwavering at $237,468. Screenshots from their social media followed lavish posts, juxtaposed with my payment dates. Isaac's smoker gleaming in a photo from the week I wired funds for it. Evidence packets took shape, 12 sets for their BBQ guests, each with highlighted lies from the article notes debunking the heat wave fiction. 85 degrees that day, no advisory per weather reports. Emotions surged as I worked, vivid memories of skipped meals, Mary's photo watching from the desk, her gentle eyes seeming to urge me on. Grudging respect gave way to focused anger, their strategy clever, but built on sand. They had underestimated me, gone public with their attack, handing me the perfect arena for response. Their online lives, a catalog of hypocrisy, would be their undoing. The sun climbed higher, the kitchen warming, but I felt a cool clarity settle. This was no longer just about money or exclusion. It was about reclaiming dignity, exposing the truth. As the packets stacked neatly, my determination solidified, a plan crystallizing for the BBQ ahead. The air still hummed with conflict, but now it was mine to direct. As the hours ticked by, I dove deeper into their digital footprints, my laptop screen illuminating the dimming room with profiles and posts that revealed more than they intended. Cody's LinkedIn boasted of his retired status at a major Dallas firm connections, sprawling like roots through the business world. Catherine's Pinterest boards were filled with luxury home ideas, pins of patios and grills that mirrored the upgrades I had funded. But it was Isaac's old email account that cracked the facade wide open, a shared family one from years ago when Michelle first married. Forgotten but still accessible with the password Mary had suggested, Family First 2020. I logged in on a whim, scrolling through archives, and there it was a chain of messages from last year titled Urgent Funds. The emails detailed Isaac's gambling losses, thousands racked up on online sports bets, during football season debts he begged Michelle to cover before his parents found out. She had wired money from their joint account, the same one my transfers fed into amounts that match my extra payments during those months. One message read, "We can use Dad's next check to pay this off. He will not notice." The discovery hit like a punch to the gut, a mini twist that ignited fresh fury. All those times I had scrimped, thinking it was for their stability when it was propping up Isaac's secret vice. My hands shook as I screenshot everything, the betrayal sharpening into rage visions of their laughing BBQ gatherings funded by my unwitting bailouts. The anger tied into the whispers starting around the neighborhood, subtle at first, but growing. Mrs. Larson from across the street stopped me while I loaded my truck for a job, her voice low. Saw that article, David. Stranding folks at the airport. Does not sound like you. I forced a smile, the societal judgment stinging like salt in a wound, rumors spreading through backyard chats and community apps. At the local hardware store, the clerk eyed me oddly, mentioning he had read about some family drama. It fueled my determination, the isolation mixing with a burning need to set the record straight. That afternoon, I called my old friend, Tom Harlan, a lawyer downtown who had handled Mary's estate. Tom, I need advice on something personal. We met at a quiet cafe near his office, the air-conditioned space, a respite from the heat steam rising from our coffees like unspoken tensions. I laid out the story, the payments, the exclusion, the article, and now Isaac's debts covered with my money. Sounds like financial exploitation, David. Under Texas Penal Code Section 32.55, financial abuse of an elderly individual is a felony if the value is over certain thresholds. You are over 60, and this could qualify as wrongful use of your funds without consent. We could pursue civil recovery too, maybe even report it for criminal investigation. His words added legal weight, tension building as he outlined options statutes protecting seniors from family predation, but warned it would drag on courts backed up since the reforms last year. No action yet, I said, but knowing the law armed me the possibility of charges hanging like a sword over their heads. Meanwhile, my landscaping business felt the ripple effects, clients canceling, follow-ups with vague excuses, rumors from the article seeping into professional circles. A big contract for a Preston Hollow estate fell through, the owner citing reliability concerns after reading the piece. I balanced the losses by calling loyal customers, assuring them of my side, but the whispers persisted. Neighbors avoiding eye contact during evening walks. The emotional toll mounted, vivid memories of building the company from scratch, clashing with this sabotage determination, hardening into a plan. I compiled more evidence printing packets with the emails, the debts tying their luxury to my exploitation. The air hummed with impending conflict, but now it carried the weight of strategy, the next move mine to make. The days blurred into a focused rhythm, my mornings spent at the desk piecing together the packets, each one a weapon forged from truth. July 4th loomed on the calendar, the date marked not for fireworks, but for reckoning. I printed 12 sets bank statements laid out chronologically, each transfer highlighted in yellow, the consistent totals staring back like accusations. Notes in the margins debunked the article's lies. Weather reports showing no heat wave that day, just a typical Dallas summer afternoon at 85 degrees with low humidity. Screenshots from their social media added weight. Isaac's posts boasting about the new grill juxtaposed with my payment dates. Michelle's updates on their perfect backyard life funded by the money I had bled for them. Amid the preparation, a new thread unraveled with my son, Alex, my younger child who had always stayed neutral in family matters. He called that afternoon, his voice hesitant over the line. "Dad, I saw the newspaper piece. What is going on with Michelle and Isaac? They say you left them high and dry at the airport." I paused, stapling another packet, the sharp click echoing in the quiet room. "It is complicated, Alex, but they have been taking advantage for years." He defended her at first, his loyalty to his sister evident. "Come on, Dad. Michelle would not do that. She is family." But doubt crept in his words, trailing as if he sensed the cracks. The subplot deepened the next day when Alex overheard Michelle on a call during a visit to her place, her voice carrying through the open window as he waited outside. She boasted about the upcoming BBQ, how it would be the event of the summer, their hosting skills on full display with the fancy setup, no mention of who paid for it all. Alex questioned her later, his text to me that evening, filled with confusion. "Dad." I heard her talking. It did not sound right. Why exclude you after everything? The revelation stirred emotional depth, pulling me into flashbacks of Mary, her gentle wisdom on boundaries during our quiet evenings. Set limits. "David," she would say, her hand on mine as we sat on the porch watching the stars. "Love does not mean giving until you are empty. It means teaching them to stand on their own." Her words echoed now, heightening my resolve amid the internal conflict, the tug of family bonds warring with the need for justice. Tension escalated that evening with a probing phone call from Michelle, her voice tight as she sensed my growing distance. "Dad, why have you been ignoring my texts? Is this about the BBQ?" I stood in the kitchen, packets spread before me, the room dim under the overhead light. "It is about more than that, Michelle. About respect." She denied any issues, her tone defensive. "There are no problems here. You are overreacting. Isaac's parents just want a nice gathering." The light confrontation hung in the air, her words fueling my determination, the emotional weight of Mary's flashbacks clashing with the present betrayal. I ended the call calmly, the silence afterward thick with unresolved conflict, my resolve solidified as July 4th drew closer. The silence on the line echoed in my ears long after I hung up, a void, filled with the unspoken truths that hung between Michelle and me. The days leading to July 4th blurred into a haze of preparation and unease, my mornings consumed by final touches on the evidence packets, each staple a small act of defiance. But their sabotage did not wait, creeping in like shadows, lengthening under the Texas sun. It started with a call from the Better Business Bureau, an anonymous complaint about unreliable service at my landscaping firm, details twisted to echo the newspaper article's lies. Then another, this time to the city permitting office questioning my licenses over alleged neglect. I traced the threads back to Cody's network, his retired executive friends, whispering in ears at chamber meetings, the kind of quiet warfare that could dismantle a small business without a single direct blow. The complaints piled up, emails and voicemails from potential clients, backing out, citing heard rumors of instability. My crew noticed too. Jose pulling me aside after a job in Highland Park. "Boss, what is going on?" "Folks are talking. The yard we just did, the owner asked if you were okay." I clapped him on the shoulder, forcing steadiness into my voice. "Just noise, Jose. We keep working." But inside, the anger simmered, vivid images of Cody's smug face, fueling at his connections like invisible strings pulling at my life's work. I spent evenings poring over records, ensuring every job was documented, the emotional toll mounting as I recalled building the company from a single mower in my garage, after Mary's diagnosis turning grief into growth, only to have it threaten now. The tension peaked on the second when a key client, Mrs. Harlan from the affluent University Park neighborhood, confronted me at her estate. I arrived for a routine maintenance check, the air thick with the scent of blooming crepe myrtles under the relentless sun. "David, "We need to talk," she said, her tone clipped, as she led me to the shaded veranda, her manicured nails tapping on a glass of iced tea. "I have seen that article. Stranding family at the airport. In this heat, it does not sit right with our image." My heart raced, the confrontation blending drama with the sting of judgment, her eyes searching mine for weakness. I defended calmly, my voice steady despite the inner storm. "Mrs. Harlan, that story is twisted. I have supported my daughter financially for years, over $200,000, only to be excluded from their gathering. The airport was a response to that disrespect. They planted the piece to hit back." She leaned back, fanning herself with a magazine, the pages fluttering like my racing thoughts. "That sounds complicated, but rumors are spreading. Clients like us value reliability." The situation heightened her words, echoing the societal pressure neighbors, whispering the isolation wrapping around me like the humid air. I met her gaze, anticipation for revenge growing amid the drama. "I understand your concern. Let me show you the facts." I pulled out a sample packet from my truck, laying out the statements without revealing too much. "See the payments, the sacrifices? This is the truth behind the headlines." She flipped through, her expression softening slightly. "Well, this changes things. But be careful, David. Word travels fast in these circles." I left with the contract intact, but the encounter left me drained, the emotional depth of defending my reputation, blending with a surging resolve. Flashbacks to Mary surfaced as I drove home, her encouragement during tough times. "You built this with integrity, David. Do not let them take that." The inner conflict stirred love for Michelle, clashing with the need for justice, but the anticipation built the BBQ drawing near like a storm on the horizon. That night, I reviewed the packets. One last time, the papers crisp under my fingers, each one a step toward reclaiming what was mine. The sabotage had intensified, but so had my strategy, the air thick with the promise of confrontation. The morning of July 4th dawned hot and hazy, the kind of Dallas summer day that promised sticky air and the sizzle of grills across backyards. I dressed carefully in my best button-down, the one Mary had bought for our anniversary years ago, pressed and ready for what felt like a different kind of ceremony. The evidence packet sat in my briefcase, 12 neat stacks of truth, each one a testament to the years of quiet exploitation. I loaded it into my truck, the leather handle cool against my palm, and drove toward their subdivision, the streets lined with American flags fluttering in the breeze. Anticipation built with every mile, a mix of nerves and righteous fire churning in my gut. Their home glowed with activity as I approached, cars filling the driveway and spilling onto the street, laughter and smoke wafting from the backyard. Through the fence, I could see figures milling around the patio, Isaac flipping burgers at the grill, Michelle playing hostess in a sundress, her smile wide for the guests. The scent of charred meat and charcoal hung heavy, a vivid reminder of the gatherings I had funded, but never fully joined. I parked across the street, heart pounding, and grabbed the briefcase, its weight, a grounding force amid the emotional storm. This was it, the confrontation I had strategized for Karma's stage, set under the Texas sun. The gate was unlatched. Of course, Michelle loved boasting about their safe neighborhood, how they did not need locks like in rougher areas. I slipped through quietly, the warm air hitting me along with the sounds of chatter and clinking glasses. And then Catherine said, "But darling, that is not how we do things in our circle," someone was saying, followed by polite chuckles. Our circle, after all they had done, to shut me out. I stepped into the backyard, briefcase in hand, 12 faces turning toward me with expressions ranging from surprise to alarm. Michelle froze with a plate of appetizers halfway to a guest. "Dad, what are you doing here?" Isaac's face paled behind the grill. Cody and Catherine looked like they had seen a specter. "Good afternoon, everyone," I said calmly, setting my briefcase on their teak side table. "I hope you do not mind me joining your Independence Day celebration." Michelle recovered first. "David, this is inappropriate. You need to leave now." Actually, I said, opening the briefcase and pulling out the first stack of papers. I think your guests deserve to know who really paid for this BBQ, this backyard, this lifestyle you have been flaunting. A woman I did not know, probably one of Catherine's social club friends, leaned forward curiously. What is he talking about? Michelle. She is having some episode, Michelle said quickly. Isaac, do something. But I was already circling the gathering, placing a packet in front of each guest. Here are the bank records, I said conversationally. 5 years of support, $168,000 in mortgage payments alone, plus the down payment renovations grill, everything you see here. The yard fell silent except for the rustling of papers as 12 people began scanning the documents. I watched their faces shift, absorbing the dates, the amounts, the undeniable proof of my generosity and their deceit. This is outrageous. One man started, then stopped staring at a statement. Unbelievable, finished the woman beside him. Michelle, why did you not tell us any of this? Michelle's composure cracked. It is more complicated. Dad offered to help. We never demanded. Actually, I interrupted, pulling out the newspaper article. Let us discuss what you did demand and what you spread about me in the media. The temperature seemed to drop despite the heat sweat beading on my brow as I laid copies on the table, my photo from the smear piece glaring up. Now, I said, my voice carrying clearly through the stunned quiet. Let us address the real manipulators here. Cody's face drained of color. Catherine sat rigid, her lemonade forgotten. Mr. Jenkins used his executive ties to plant this story. I continued tapping the paper. See how I'm depicted as unreliable, abandoning them in a fake heat wave. It was 85 and pleasant, and they were not innocent visitors. They came for the BBQ I was banned from because my presence would embarrass their refined tastes. Catherine found her voice. That is not. We never implied. You never implied what, Catherine? That I was too low class for your crowd, that my grilling and stories would shame you before your educated friends. The woman from the club shifted uncomfortably. Catherine, you did not. He is distorting it all. Cody blustered, but his voice lacked strength. This man has serious problems. The stress of aging money troubles. Money troubles? I nearly laughed. Mr. Jenkins, I have bankrolled your son-in-law and daughter nearly $3,000 a month for 5 years. The only troubles here are the ones you are about to face. I turned to the group. These people took $237,000 from me while mocking me behind my back. They turned my daughter against me, barred me from family events, and when I finally pushed back, they tried to wreck my name in the news. The mood shifted like a sudden wind gust's murmuring eyes darting to Cody and Catherine with mixtures of revulsion and awkwardness. This is disgraceful, said an older man in a golf shirt, glaring at the statements. Cody, how could you let your daughter exploit this man's kindness, then smear him when he stopped? Cody's facade cracked. You do not get the whole picture. I get it clearly. The man cut in. He supported your family while you treated him like a servant, and when he said no, you aimed to destroy him. Catherine's tone strangled. He left us at the airport. After you said I was not fit for your BBQ because my background would be inappropriate, I said evenly. After 5 years of paying your bills while you sneered at my roots and work ethic. The quiet was profound, 12 people staring at Cody and Catherine, with looks from disgust to pity for associating with them. Michelle tried one last grasp at control. Everyone, this is a private matter blown out of proportion. No, I said firmly. It became public when you made it so, when you used the paper to assault my character, deciding my standing was fair game for your egos. I surveyed the faces strangers who now knew my story. I wanted you all to hear the facts before another article about David Thompson, because there will be more, but next time, the real tale. I snapped my briefcase shut and adjusted my shirt. Enjoy your BBQ. It is the last one I will finance. As I turned to leave, the eruption began behind me. Voices rising in questions and accusations, the sound of a crumbling social empire. It was the sweetest music I had heard in years. The drive home that evening was a symphony of lingering echoes, the chaos of the BBQ fading in my rear view, but resonating in my mind like victory bells. Fireworks lit the Dallas sky for Independence Day, bursts of red and blue mirroring the explosion I had ignited. Sleep came easy that night, the first deep rest in weeks, but morning brought the repercussions I had anticipated. My phone buzzed with messages from unknown numbers, guests from the gathering expressing shock and support, one even apologizing for associating with such deceit. But the real fallout began with a call from Tom Harlan, my lawyer friend, his voice grave over the line. "David, after what you described, we have grounds. Financial exploitation of an elder under Texas law. Let us file." We met at his office downtown, the room lined with legal tomes and the faint scent of polished wood sunlight streaming through blinds in slanted beams. I laid out the packets, the emails revealing Isaac's gambling debts, paid with my transfers, the totals documented meticulously. Tom nodded, citing Penal Code Section 32.53, exploitation over $100,000 could be a first-degree felony. Civil suit for recovery, too, under the Theft Liability Act. The words added weight, a legal arsenal to match their sabotage. I signed the papers that afternoon, the pen scratching like a final nail in their facade, emotions swirling with vindication and a touch of sorrow for what family had become. The lawsuit unfolded over the following weeks, summons delivered to their door by a process server, the image of Michelle's shocked face haunting my thoughts. Court dates were set: the Dallas County Courthouse, a stark building of stone and glass where I sat in wooden benches awaiting our turn. The first hearing was tense, the judge's gavel echoing like judgment lawyers arguing motions, while I presented evidence bank records projected on a screen, the numbers glaring in black and white. Michelle took the stand, her face pale under the fluorescent lights, forced to admit under cross-examination that Isaac's debts had been covered with my funds, coercion from his habits, pushing her to keep taking. "Yes," she said softly, eyes downcast. "We used the money for that." The courtroom air thickened with her confession, sibling conflict brewing as Alex, sitting beside me, gripped the railing, his alliance clear, since uncovering the gambling proof on his own dig through old family drives. Alex had come to me the week after the BBQ, his face etched with betrayal, handing over a USB drive with more emails he had found. "Dad, this proves it." Isaac's losses were huge, and Michelle knew. The revelation created a rift, Alex confronting her in a heated call I overheard from the next room. "How could you sis using Dad like that while hiding this mess?" Her denials turned to tears, the conflict deepening the emotional chasm in our family. Yet it strengthened my bond with him, our talks late into nights, reminiscing about Mary, her absence a void that their actions had widened. Emotions peaked at a family meeting Alex insisted on, held at a neutral coffee shop in Uptown, the aroma of espresso clashing with the bitter tension. Michelle arrived with Isaac, her eyes red-rimmed, pleading as soon as we sat. "Dad, please drop the suit. We can work this out. Isaac is getting help for the gambling. It was a mistake." Alex leaned forward, proof in hand. "Mistake. You coerced him for years, hid the debts. This is not just money, it is betrayal." The confrontation escalated, voices rising over the hum of the cafe, Michelle's tears flowing freely. "I did it for us, for the family, but you excluded Dad." Alex shot back, the sibling divide, stark emotions raw as old wounds surfaced, Mary's memory invoked in heated words. I enforced boundaries firmly, my voice steady amid the storm. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting Michelle. "The suit stands. You need to face the consequences." She pleaded more, her hand reaching across the table, but I pulled back the gesture, heavy with finality. As we left, the air charged with unresolved pain, I watched from afar as their house entered foreclosure proceedings, notices posted on the door like scarlet letters, the bank moving in after missed payments piled up. The sight brought a complex rush, karma's hand visible in their crumbling world, my heart aching for the daughter I loved, but no longer recognized, the legal wheels turning inexorably forward. The legal proceedings dragged through the humid tail end of summer hearings and depositions, pulling me into sterile courtrooms where the air conditioner hummed against the lingering heat. Autumn arrived in October with cooler breezes rustling the leaves outside my window, a season of change that mirrored the shifts in my life. The lawsuit had gained traction evidence mounting like falling foliage, but the emotional toll lingered, a quiet ache for what family once meant. Then came the knock on my door one crisp afternoon, Michelle standing there with shadows under her eyes, a scarf wrapped around her neck against the chill. "Dad, can we talk?" Her voice trembled, the weight of months evident in her posture. I stepped aside, letting her in, the scent of her perfume mixing with the faint aroma of my morning coffee still on the stove. She sat at the kitchen table, hands fidgeting with her purse-strapped tears, welling before she spoke. "Dad, I am so sorry. For everything. The exclusion, the insults to Mom using your money like that. It was wrong. Isaac's debts pushed me, but that is no excuse. I betrayed you." Her words broke with sobs, tears streaming down her face, the vulnerability cracking through her usual composure. My heart twisted seeing the daughter I raised in her pain memories of her childhood laughter, clashing with the present hurt. "I forgive you, Michelle," I said softly, sitting across from her. "But forgiveness does not erase the damage. I cannot resume the payments. You need to downsize, find what you can afford, and seek therapy. For you, for whatever comes next." She nodded through tears, wiping her face with a tissue from her bag. "I know. We are selling the house. Foreclosure is close. Isaac is. He is struggling." An email from him popped up on my phone as we talked, his angry words attempting to shift blame. "This is all your fault, David. Your stubbornness ruined everything. If you had just helped, we would be fine." The message fueled a brief flare of irritation interspersed with the conversation, but I deleted it, focusing on Michelle. "This is not about blame," I told her. "It is about boundaries. Mary taught me that too late, perhaps, but I am learning now." The healing began subtly, like the turning leaves outside, starting with elder support groups at the community center downtown. I attended my first meeting that week, the room filled with faces like mine, stories of exploitation shared over folding chairs and coffee urns. One man spoke of his son's similar drain on his savings, the group nodding in shared understanding, the air thick with resilience. It helped those sessions unraveling the knot of isolation, emphasizing that I was not alone in this battle. Emotions surfaced vividly, tears for lost trust, but also laughter at small victories, the group becoming a lifeline amid the ongoing legal churn. Rebuilding my business came next, with Alex's help proving invaluable. He showed up unannounced one morning, toolbox in hand. "Dad, let us turn this around." We spent afternoons cold calling old clients, explaining the truth behind the rumors, his youthful energy, complementing my experience. One job led to another, a big contract in Preston Hollow revived. When the owner heard my side, the yard transforming under our hands, fresh sod rolling out like new beginnings. Alex's alliance deepened our bond conversations, turning to Mary, how she would be proud, the emotional depth grounding me as we worked side by side, sweat mixing with shared memories under the October sun. The subplot of healing culminated in a simple picnic with Aunt Rita's family, her call coming just as Isaac's email faded from mind. "Join us Sunday, David. The kids miss their uncle." We gathered at White Rock Lake, blankets spread under oak trees, the water sparkling in the autumn light. Rita's laughter filled the air as her grandchildren ran with kites, the scene vivid with falling leaves and the smell of sandwiches unpacked from coolers. Alex joined too, his presence bridging the generation stories, flowing freely without the shadow of betrayal. It emphasized resilience, these new bonds, forming like scars over wounds, stronger for the healing. Isaac's attempt to shift blame in another email that evening bounced off me, deleted without response, the picnic's warmth lingering as a shield. My heart ached less with each step, the legal wheels still turning, but the personal reconstruction taking hold, a quiet strength emerging from the ruins. The letter arrived on a crisp October Tuesday, certified mail slipping under my door with the finality of a closing chapter. Notice of foreclosure completion. It read the house sold at auction for a fraction of its worth. Michelle and Isaac walking away with losses that echoed their years of excess. Rumors swirled through Dallas social whispers, Isaac's gambling debts surfacing in public filings from the lawsuit creditors circling like hawks over exposed prey. Divorce chatter followed neighbors spotting moving trucks and separate cars, their once perfect facade shattering under the weight of exposed secrets. Karma wove its thread complete their circle, shrinking to isolation invitations, drying up as friends distanced from the scandal. I watched from afar, thriving in the financial breathing room. I had reclaimed my savings, rebounding like parched earth after rain. The business flourished again, Alex's help turning it into a partnership, new contracts pouring in from clients who admired my stand against exploitation. I took my first vacation in years funded by those untouched funds, a road trip to the Gulf Coast where the waves crashed against the shore in rhythmic freedom, salt air cleansing the lingering bitterness. Evenings by the beach, I reflected on the lessons etched deep self-respect, not a luxury, but a necessity. The boundaries Mary had urged, now walls that protected, rather than divided. Michelle reached out in November, a tentative coffee meet at a neutral spot downtown. Her face, thinner eyes, carrying the wear of consequences. Dad, the house is gone. Isaac and I are separating. His debts ruined us, but I see now how I let it happen. How I hurt you. Tears glistened as she spoke, the emotional rawness bridging the gap we had built. I listened, the ache softening, and extended an olive branch on equal terms. We can rebuild, Michelle, but as adults. No more taking. Therapy for you, honesty between us. She nodded, a fragile hope sparking our conversations, starting slow shared memories of Mary, weaving us back without the old dependencies. The quiet strength grew, a foundation rebuilt from ruins, resilience blooming like Texas wildflowers after a storm. I found peace in simple joys, picnics with Rita's family, Alex's growing role, the business humming with purpose. Karma had balanced the scales, their isolation a mirror to my past exclusion. But I chose growth over gloating, lessons of self-respect guiding every step forward. If you enjoyed this story, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments.